Thank you. I was getting a little worried. Welcome to Steeple Concerts. It is thrilling to see so many people out here today. Welcome to those of you who are online and joining us virtually. We are so thrilled to continue our season this year, despite all of the obstacles. So thank you for being here and risking the pandemic and the cold weather. And I know you're in for a fantastic treat. So this is, as you notice, the highlight of the evening, so I'll let the artists tell you about that. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. There will be no intermission. We're going to keep this going straight through, and we do ask that you have your masks on at all times for the duration of the program. Obviously, if you're watching online, you don't have to wear a mask. It's okay. You're set. So a quick couple of things. If you have not joined our mailing list, we want to encourage you to join the Steeple Concerts mailing list. The best way we get the word out is from me sending an email to you once in a blue moon. So trust me, it's not like you're going to get emails in your inbox constantly. It's when I get around to it. So that's like twice or three times per concert. And it's the best way for us to get the word out to the biggest number of people. If you haven't liked us on Facebook, you want to make sure you take a second and like us because, again, we do share things on Facebook. And you can also share it with your friends and family. And that's a great way for us to get the word out about what we're doing here in downtown Westfield. I should have said welcome to St. Paul's Church. My name is Mark Hitchko. I'm the artistic director here, as well as the organist and choir master. And special thanks to all of the volunteers who help make Steeple Concerts a reality. There are many of them, and you can see their names in the program. So take a moment to thank them when you see them. Special thanks to Duncan Johnston and Chris Decatur, who are our clergy here at St. Paul's. Just another quick thing, we could not do this without incredible support from a lot of people. And we really want to encourage you to consider to be moved to make a donation for Steeple Concerts. And you can do that through a lot of different ways. Kevin Moore in the very back will be glad to take gold bullion, stock certificates, your iPhone, we can hawk that, you name it. But no donation is honestly too small, or too big, I like to say that as well. We could not do this without your support. Ticket prices for an event like this are very reasonable for the quality of what you're getting, and I hope that we can all sort of support so that we can continue in producing wonderful events like what you're about to have tonight. Just looking ahead at the calendar in your program, you'll see a couple of other events coming up. We're going to continue with the Westerlies. The Westerlies were slated to come with us in March of 2020, but obviously plans changed. So we had to book them again for last year, which we still weren't able to do. So this is the second time that we've had to book them. So they will actually be here this March, no matter what. We've decided we are making sure that that happens, even if it's a completely empty room and they're just playing to me and Kevin. So the Westerlies will come. They're fantastic. We hope that you'll come enjoy that. And of course, the highlight of the year, it's been a couple of years since we've had the annual Masterworks concert, but we are going to go ahead in good faith that we'll be able to sing and make music together. So we do hope that you schedule that for May 15th. And if you're interested in joining the choir for that, I am more than happy to talk to you. So that is open to everyone. You do not need to be a member of St. Paul's Church. If you're online and you like to sing, shoot me an email. I would love to be able to get as many people to participate as possible. So again, enjoy yourself tonight. I hope you're going to learn a few new things. I am so thrilled to invite our artists, Shirley Hunt and Sylvia Berry, all the way from Boston, and they're going to give you a fantastic presentation on the early music of Beethoven. So without any further ado from me, Shirley Hunt and Sylvia Berry.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Shirley Hunt and this is my colleague Sylvia Berry. We're the Hunt Berry duo from Boston, and we are two artists who specialize in historical performance practice of the Baroque and Classical periods. So we have for you tonight a program of early Beethoven works from Beethoven's early period. This is a very hopeful and fruitful period of Beethoven's life before he was experiencing symptoms of hearing loss. It was a time when he was traveling Europe to make a name for himself and sort of find his fortune as a young composer. And the works that we have for cello and fortepiano are so interesting to me for this program today. They come from a summer that Beethoven spent in Berlin visiting the court of Friedrich Wilhelm II. This monarch was actually a cellist himself, and he loved cellists and cello players and cello-featured chamber music at court. In fact, this royal employed these two brothers from France, the Duport brothers, Jean-Pierre and Jean-Louis Duport, to be his personal tutors and entertainers at court. So when Beethoven arrived in the summer of 1796 to Berlin, he found a veritable hotbed of cellistic activity. So this was a great learning opportunity for the composer to learn what the cello could do, to be exposed to the leading performers of the day who were pushing the limits of what the instrument could do. And Beethoven, being the genius that he was, started to compose some new music for the piano and the cello as equals, which was a very new thing in music history. The cello was heretofore either an accompanying instrument or a solo instrument with a more simplified accompaniment at the keyboard. So these works you'll hear today would have been performed by Beethoven himself at the keyboard, playing a piano, much like the one that you see here today, and we'll do a little bit of talking about our instruments a little later in the program. And Beethoven would have played these pieces with the younger of these two cello-playing French brothers who were employed at the court in Berlin. We'll start the program with this theme and variations that's based on a tune by Handel from the Judas Maccabeus oratorio. And See the Conquering Hero Comes is the name of the tune that the variations are based on. And this was kind of a nod to Friedrich Wilhelm, the monarch in Berlin, kind of Beethoven doffing his cap, but in a humorous way. As you'll hear, many of these variations are rather cheeky and humorous, and it's fun for us to sort of present this lighter side of Beethoven before we dig a bit deeper. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out and spending time with us today. And thank you to the online listeners as well. So we're now at the show and tell part of the concert. So, but I've learned it's actually fun to wait a little bit and let people hear the instrument and then wonder what's going on. So this is a copy of a Fortepiano by a Viennese builder named Anton Walter. He was sort of the Steinway of his day. Mozart owned a Walter. Beethoven played instruments by Walter. And this is a copy of an instrument he built in 1795, so it's right around the time of this music that we're playing. And this is the instrument that Haydn and Mozart did all their piano writing on, except for Haydn did some writing on an English piano also. But when Beethoven came on the scene, this was already the established concert instrument. For Mozart, he transitioned from the harpsichord to this kind of piano. So you'll see, those of you who are friends with normal pianos, you'll see there are no pedals here. But there is a device to lift the dampers, and it's activated by a knee lever. So this is why I have this big block of wood here. So I'm a bit petite, and I need some help to get to the bottom of the instrument. So I'm able to raise the dampers. That's what it sounds like without. This is harder to do while holding the microphone. There's, on the left side, another knee lever that engages a thing called the moderator. And what happens when you engage that is that a piece of cloth comes between the hammers and the strings and makes a concertino or muted effect. It's so beautiful. And it's a bit like a John Cage prepared piano thing, way ahead of that time. So here's what that sounds like. So this is a really gorgeous sound. I think you'll love that every time you hear it. Now, no piano was built the same in the 18th century. It's a bit like, now this is really banal, but if you buy a car and they ask you about the options, do you want seat warmers? Do you want the various things? Not everybody was maybe able to afford a piano that had the moderator. So people had different instruments, kinds. Some people had the knee levers as something you had to use at the front of the instrument, like an organist pulling a stop. So the composers of this era didn't always tell you when to use these things. And Beethoven is one of the first composers that starts telling you when he wants you to lift the dampers. And so in the very last piece of my solo set, you'll hear a very long, extended passage where there's no dampers, and the piano's ringing through all these different kinds of harmonies, and it sounds pretty avant-garde, but on this piano, it just sounds like this beautiful cloud of sound, and on the modern piano, that's a lot louder, and the tones last a lot longer. It's kind of messy. And he doesn't tell you where to use the moderator, but it's pretty clear to me, because in that last piece, he says fortissimo, and then immediately pianissimo. And so I engaged the moderator and the damper levers in that place, and you'll hear how wonderful and amazing that sounds. So the first piece is a little sonata that he wrote for a friend of his in Bonn. It's only 2 movements. I think it's nice to hear some juvenilia, and this is written around the time of Mozart's death. And then I'm going immediately into the 3 bagatelles, which are pieces from 1802. So they're after Beethoven has kind of conquered, his world as a pianist. And these pieces are a bit also kind of experimental and very humorous. What I want to point out to you is that the Adagio, or the Andante rather, of the bagatelles, there's this long thing in Italian, but I thought I should print it. It says, con una certa espressione parlante. So he means with a certain speaking expression. So when you hear that bagatelle in D major, I want you to think of 2 people having a conversation together, and then it makes the piece come a little more alive, I think. So those bagatelles are really humorous and great, and the first thing, the short sonata, is very gorgeous, actually, and nobody plays it. So I hope you enjoy that.
Before Sylvia begins her solo set, I just thought I'd say a few words about the cello that I'm playing. This instrument is set up and is being played in the manner that a cello would have been played during Beethoven's early period, without an end pin and with gut strings. So the material that strings were made from in the 18th century was essentially kind of these thin yarn-like ropes of wound up sheep intestine, or perhaps cow intestine, or maybe another animal, but definitely not cat. It's often said cat gut, but definitely no cats were harmed in the making of this concert. Thank you, I'll be here all night. So this cello that I'm playing was made in the 1770s in London, actually. So it is, in fact, an instrument that, considering its vintage, could have been played in its young days during Beethoven's time. The bow that I'm using is also a bow that was typical of this period. It's a copy of a bow from about 1770 as well. And the end pin as a kind of a piece of technology on the cello is not something we really begin to see until the 19th century, as concert spaces were getting larger and larger, and the commercialization of music was kind of becoming a thing in Europe. There became a need for more power from these instruments, and with the cello, one way to get more sheer volume out of the instrument was to add something like an end pin so you could kind of hold it in place. The sort of music that we're playing in this concert is much more for a smaller, more intimate space, such as this one, where we can all see one another's faces, or at least most of one another's faces. It's really a delight to be here playing this music for you today on these instruments. And there's a person I want to acknowledge who is not up here, but is a very important part of the whole Hunt-Berry duo operation, and that is Dale Munchie, who is our piano technician and expert who helps keep this instrument that belongs to Sylvia healthy and safely moved from one place to another. So thank you, Dale, for all your work for us and supporting this performance. Yeah, thank you.
And don't worry, now the lecture is almost over. I do want to say that occasionally, because these instruments have a completely wooden frame, there's no cast iron frame in this instrument. They are very susceptible to temperature changes. So some things have gone a little out of tune, and today that's just going to be the character of how this instrument sounds today. But I'm often asked, don't I think Beethoven would have enjoyed a bigger piano? This thing's so small. And in Beethoven's career, this piano did start to get bigger and they did start to have pedals, but they still were nothing like the modern piano. And what I will say is that Shirley spoke about intimacy. The inventor of the piano in 1700, Bartolomeo Cristofori, he wanted to make a harpsichord that would play soft, because harpsichord was so loud. And he came up with a completely different mechanism and invented an instrument in the meantime. And people were very invested in how soft an instrument could be. And so what I love about playing this music on these instruments is that there's much more dynamic gradation. So open your ears up to the very soft sounds so that we can hear in this intimate space. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. If you want to relive this experience, you can go onto our YouTube channel where I sat in the back running all sorts of fun camera angles, so you can relive this. We hope to see you on March 27th when we'll be presenting the Westerlies, and again on May 15th when we will be singing, hopefully, God willing, Mendelssohn's Second Symphony, the Lobgesang. If you want to join either of those, be sure to contact me. Please drive safely. Make sure you sign our email list if you haven't done so. And again, please consider making a donation to help support the great music here in downtown Westfield. Thank you all. We'll see you at the next concert.